balls.
Yeah.
Snowballs? Where's the Twinkies?
You realize what you've done to my wife?
I am not looking for trouble. I am but a humble gato in search of his next meal. Perhaps you gentlemen can help me find a simple score.
Go on, boys, chop his head off. Right, silly little beater. One rabbit stew coming right up. Jesus Christ!
He swore. So
No.
He's going to get mad at me later on. So
That was not profanity. That was the name of
he
a
was
historical or
they were
interreligious figure.
seeking inspiration so that they could go fight the rabbit.
Yeah,
Right.
so we thought we would bring a little history and or worship into the beginning of the program. Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are the
Cinemaniacs.
Cinemaniacs. How are you?
The Cinemaniacs.
The Cinemaniacs.
If Bruce Campbell were with us, he could do that.
We would
Bruce,
rename
come
it
on.
in his honor.
We do that. I do that.
We're just bantering
Because
casually.
we only have like 7 movies to talk about.
Because I haven't seen the first 2. Should we jump
And
right
I haven't seen like the last 3.
So, hey,
So enjoy.
the way I figure, sometimes I'm guilty. Like, I do want to try to watch everything so we can actually maybe attempt a conversation on these things. But at the same time, if we both have our mind to speak on every film, we'd run out of time.
That's
so
right.
fast.
When we can cover so many more films if I see stuff that you don't see and vice versa.
If at least one person has seen every film, unlike that which I'm about to introduce. Hi, how are you? Woody Allen is back. He never really left. The man does not stop working. With a new film set on Coney Island in the glorious days of the 1950s about people who work there and people who live there and people who play there, and it all revolves around the Wonder Wheel. I love that he has committed to a specific font.
You like that?
For the
Ever
majority.
since like Broadway Danny Rose or something?
It's a tiny thing, but I like consistency, and it's always the same font.
Thanks, Woody.
That's all we really have constructive to say about it, because we haven't seen
Yes, it's out. It actually opens wide this coming weekend, I think.
Okay.
It was in kind of select theaters last week.
Overall, I enjoy his films. I haven't
I've had issues
loved
with
one
him
in a
lately.
really long time.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, he's done some obviously brilliant stuff, and I respect that at least he's out there. If he and like Michael Caine would get together, and because they do like a movie a month, I think that's what they should do. So I don't know. But speaking of somebody who could do, would like to do a movie a month, but had a difficult time getting into it. A couple of guys decide that they need to head out to Hollywood and kind of make it big. You've heard this story before, but you probably haven't heard the fact that they couldn't find work. And so they decide to make a movie on their own. It's not the greatest movie ever, I would say. And as a matter of fact, the writer, producer, actor, director comes to be known as the disaster artist.
No Showtime treat to equal the crisp, delicious flavor of hot popcorn that's bathed in real melted butter.
So this is like a phenomenally well-known for reasons that should be pretty evident. As a matter of fact, I again, not that the only media I have difficulty separating it for some reason is Stephen King. I think we talked about this when I saw The Dark Tower, and I just have to compare it to the book. But this is a pretty well-known book that I was reading when I was in Italy a couple of years ago. So I'd known about this for quite a while. I actually then purchased The Room, the movie, and it's as bad as everybody says it is. Holy cow! Yeah. And so, for some reason, I have difficulty separating this movie from the fact that it's about movies. Usually, and we warn people that most of the time audiences don't like movies about movies.
I think mass audiences don't care.
Right. This isn't really. If I'm looking for something, and I think this is a very well-made movie, well-made film, but it's about a poorly made movie, and so how interesting can you make it? Performances are real strong. I like the Francos. I thought they were really good. I know of the director pretty well, and the acting in this, it's like it's the real guy. So if you like movies, if you like movies about movies, if you like movies about, and this does a good job getting into this director's real love of film, and the performances bring that across. But it's just so sad that I forget who it was. There's a famous quote. Oh well, I think it was Eva Perón, if you can believe Evita from the musical, but that God can give you the desire but not the talent to do something. And this is a real, almost kind of poignant story about that. I really ended up enjoying The Disaster Artist.
I've heard it compared in some ways to Ed Wood, the movie.
Yeah.
About someone with more passion
not nearly
and
as
talent.
much fun and lighthearted.
So this is drama, comedy, split?
It's certainly more drama than comedy, whereas I think Ed Wood I would call mostly comedy in the long run.
This is one I did want to see. I do want to see. I just
hopefully
did
it'll get a
not.
wider release. I think.
I think it'll hobble its way. It'll hobble its way around the country for a while.
Right.
And you know what's
As most of the actors.
Well,
there's your lead in.
What's interesting is that if a theater, brilliantly wants to play this and The Room as a double feature, they can't.
Really?
Those are owned
I
by
didn't
two
know that.
separate entities, and I have a friend who does film programming. He said
Right.
their theater could show The Room and The Disaster Artist in two separate theaters,
How
but they
strange.
could not show them together. They cannot touch the same screen in a row for some reason. So keep an eye out. I mean, if you've never seen The Room, I wonder. I think this would probably still be interesting and funny. See, what I
I
wonder
don't know
is
if it's streamable. It's readily available on, like, if you can purchase
physically.
things from a certain.
I wonder, is it better to watch this movie and then The Room, or is it better to have seen The Room before you watch this movie?
As somebody involved in film, I had a much more fun time having seen the original movie first, and then seeing them struggle to achieve it, and remembering, oh yeah, that's that scene.
Because if you did it in the reverse order, it's not like it's going to ruin The Room.
Well, right, exactly.
I mean-
it's going to be like, gee, the movie about making The Room was sure a lot better.
It's,
So anyway.
it's not a good film. So that's all we have to discuss, which at least one of us saw in a theater this weekend that may or may not be playing close to where you live. We'd like to thank our friends at Brattleboro's very own Latches Theater for sponsoring this fine program and letting us go over there to see films. And now we move on to that which you will watch in the comfort of your own home or vehicle or workout space
Yes.
or tent or however you watch things, whatever you watch them on.
Close your ears.
Close your ears.
Maybe.
Oh, say here. Say it's all me now.
Sorry.
It's all me now. All me. How are you? So we have a film coming up where you may or may not be seeing some or all of the trailer that I'm about to introduce, because the trailer that we
My
have
fault.
ready to go is filled with words we really can't use on our show before 10 p.m. So here we have Samuel L. Jackson, Salma Hayek, and Ryan Reynolds in a film about a man who has to protect a man who's a hit man, and this is about a film entitled The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Like a Rocky.
Whoever said the good guys finish last hasn't seen this movie.
Come and see it.
I'd like you to meet my bodyguard.
Yep.
No one at home
They
will
said
know.
They said a lot, and then
They
he
did.
was also saying, and I don't know.
Okay, folks on YouTube, that doesn't mean anything. They won't
That's
even
right.
know. Folks who are watching this at home, just respect the extra 20 minutes I took to have you not hear the words we just heard in the studio. So this is not an original premise, shall
No,
we
certainly
say.
not.
This is yet another, as I like to say, this month's buddy cop road movie where
It's this
two people
decade's
who,
Midnight Run.
who don't, it's exactly Midnight
Yeah.
Run is the thing. Somebody is bringing somebody from point A to point B, and somebody else wants to get them, and whatever. I can accept that if the movie is good. I didn't really love this that much. Ryan Reynolds, wonderfully charming and funny guy. Sam Jackson, ditto. Salma Hayek, ditto. All of the above.
Selma Hayek steals the scenes.
See,
Everything she's in, I thought she was wonderful.
She plays like a tough as nails woman in prison. Not that kind of movie, but that's what she is. And for me, it was like, I'm supposed to laugh because she swears a lot, and I didn't think that was funny.
Okay.
And her character was funny. I thought the action was completely unwatchable and thrown away, so I didn't have that going for it. I saw this in the theater. I haven't seen it since. I don't remember much about it other than the fact that I just didn't get much out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry for my failing memory. I tend to put the things out of my mind that I don't love, and this was one of them. It just felt like yet again we have this, and there was nothing that made it worth going through that story again for me. Like, it wasn't funnier than any of the ones I'd seen in the past. The action wasn't any better.
Okay.
So
What I
it wasn't for
enjoyed
me.
about this, and I like this apparently significantly more than you did. In retrospect, I like it a little bit less. I had a lot of fun with it. there's lots and lots and lots of language, not just based on the trailer that we saw, where most of the language...
Accurate depiction of the movie, though.
In the movie, exactly. But like to separate it from Midnight Run, Charles Grodin's an accountant, and De Niro is the bounty hunter who has to take him someplace. In this case, they're both kind of like bounty hunters. They're both bodyguards. So what I enjoyed, and I thought the movie played up pretty well, was Sam Jackson constantly saying he's better at his job than Ryan Reynolds is, and they're constantly butting heads. I thought they had enough chemistry, and there was enough fun with that I enjoyed it. I didn't find the action, and I'm usually, especially lately, trying to be aware of that. Oh, Mark's going to hate this or something like that. And acknowledging that. I didn't find it that distracting. I thought Hayek's in there because she's Sam Jackson's wife, and he's doing this. He's going to turn over, he's going to turn state's evidence to get her out, to cut a deal and get her out. And so there's one scene where, if you'll remember this, if you end up watching this or whatever, then she's this tough as nails woman in prison. And there's one scene where for like a 3 or 4 minute scene, there's this woman over in the corner who is apparently her roommate, just like sitting there crying about something, and it ends up being that, it sounds pretty bad now as I'm saying it, but I thought it ended up being really funny that Salma Hayek is just so in control of everything that's going on there. I thought she stole the show. There's lots of subtle little humor in the background toward the very end. Not to give anything away, but I'll say Hayek gets out, let's say that. And there's a couple of scenes where there's a guy on fire in the background, and they don't even say anything about it.
Big fan of the guy on fire.
I thought it was...
Full body bird, you don't see much anymore.
Right, exactly. So anyway, this is certainly a chuck your brain at the door, and don't even worry about thinking about anything, because it's stupid, and there's lots and lots of language. I don't recall nudity.
I think
there's
some
violence.
Good gore, bloody violence, I think.
Right. There's violence and language for the most part. But if that's your cup of tea, I had a good time.
Would you say it had more than 100 worlds in it? See, this is a terrible link. I can't always feed him gold.
Trying to work on that one. So anyway, I'll just kick right into it. And but if you're trying to save the world, you may have seen this one before. Are we getting? They're summer movies, so what do you expect? It is kind of just chuck your brain at the door. But boy, go grab your 4K TV if you can grab the 4K version of this. This thing looks terrific. A couple of young kids are out to save the world for democracy and everything like that because there's evil aliens coming to destroy everywhere they can. Those aliens want to kill Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
I'm cold, dark, windy, and mysterious. I'm very stormy, so bring an umbrella. I'm serious. We are the planets.
So this one,
Control V Cinema. Yes.
Right. I didn't get a chance to see this on video yet. I probably will. I was not crazy about this. It looked absolutely spectacular. Besson spending a lot of time. I think everything on this is probably CG'd and green screened. I had difficulty with it. One, because it just felt like a complete copy, just a search and replace of Ender's Game. And also that, and am I getting old, or I'm not sure what, I'm just getting old? Thanks, I appreciate that.
We all are.
They just seemed so young. They just seemed like really mild, children to do this. And so I didn't know at whom this was aimed. I felt that it was, going into it, I was thinking, and this is my fault, probably so too, but I was thinking it was aimed for a little higher age range. But this just felt like a real kids movie with hundreds of millions of dollars behind it. This
was a film based on a French comic from the 60s, I think.
Okay.
So some accusations of pilferage are reverse in that, well, probably other storylines pilfered from this source material more likely than
maybe
this.
Even Ender's. Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, you can say that because the source material came out first, but at the same time, what new films don't occasionally go?
Right.
That worked for this other guy. Let's incorporate that into this older story. This to me was, I was just saying off air, similar to how I felt about Justice League. I don't know that it was a great movie, but viewed it literally as a Saturday matinee. I sat there on a Saturday afternoon at the movies, buttered popcorn, Dr. Pepper, and it was
I think that might have been a great way to approach it, yeah.
It was visually amazing. This is a big screen film. Sorry for anybody who's not seeing this on the big screen in some way. I'm hoping everybody has a big enough TV monitor at home to, really soak the details of this, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
The two leads I'm not crazy about, just in movies in general. The looks like he needs a good night's sleep version of Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right. Doesn't he play Harry Osborn in the?
Yes.
Not the newest Spider-Man.
He was in Cure for Wellness,
Yes,
which I like.
Cure for Wellness
We both
was wonderful,
liked quite a bit.
He was terrific.
So this film,
But he looked like he was 10.
He did.
What
and
happened?
That's my beef. Is just like, when I was a kid.
He'll love
when
that
I was a kid.
20 years from now. Then.
I wanted to see grown-ups in movies.
Right.
Call me crazy. I wanted somebody to look up to who wasn't, a 2-year age difference from me.
Right.
But that's just me. So it was very interesting. Interesting casting here and there. You have Herbie Hancock, not playing a keyboard at any point in this film, but on screen. And there's a sequence at the beginning of the film where you see the passage of time and how we have got to this state of this world that we're in now, where there's a series of alien races meeting like on a space station and shaking hands. And I believe most of the humanoid looking like you and me people were famous French film directors that Luc Besson wanted to get in his movie and pay tribute to, so that was kind of cool. This is not a movie I remember very well, which is to say I'm not sure this film is going to linger in the memory of anybody except kids who really liked it right now and who will call it a classic in 20 years. I don't know that we're going to see any more installments in this. I'm not sure that it made a lot of money. I think it was partially crowdfunded from what I heard.
Oh, really?
So somebody had said Besson, brought it up to zero by the time the movie came out. But I don't know. It was interesting. I don't see it as wildly different from other movies like Ender's Game or all these other, youth-channeled sci-fi films. But it was pretty, and if you want a rental of a pretty movie that has a decent message overall and some sci-fi ideas that are kind of interesting and some fun action sequences. It's a scene in a virtual marketplace that's kind of cool. So I wouldn't say a bad thing about Valerian. I just would be hard-pressed to tell you what it was about in about 3 weeks. Speaking of films aimed at children or starring children or... I'll just introduce this film.
Go ahead, take a jump and see if you can get out there.
Okay, I'm going to get both feet on the ground. Here's the story of a little girl who wants to be a ballerina, and to do so, she must gather her courage and her talent and her ways of achieving goals and take a flying leap. Could that line have been lifted from any children's film of the last 10 years?
I think pretty much
always follow your dreams, you can do it.
Can be lifted.
That's not a bad thing, I'm just saying.
Right. We've seen this a million times. I can't, I'm trying to think of a movie that's specifically about ballerinas, because I know a lot of little girls like that. I always wanted a little girl, and I got 2 boys. I guess they could have been ballerinas too, or gone into ballet. But this is clearly aimed at little girls who want to be ballerinas and maybe their parents. Otherwise, the animation is fine. I'm struggling for, overtly positive things to say about this because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just nothing terribly clever. You can tell exactly what it's about based on the trailer. It's what you see, it's what you get. And so if you like that, it's perfectly fine. Good music, the animation is fine, lots of ballet dancing and everything going on, but I don't think and this isn't trying to be sexist, but in trying to, let the audience know what's happening, I don't think little boys are going to be terribly interested in this. And so, so there you go. You got a little girl, I think they'll like it. The animation is fine, lots of good music.
So not having seen this film,
yes,
I would say, is there a teacher or authoritarian figure who ruled with an iron fist in this film?
We try so hard, but
sometimes it's not hard enough.
Right.
Sorry.
But she does dance in patent leather shoes.
Does she really?
Oh wait, no, I'm making something up too. In any event, maybe she's trying to take over the world. I'm not quite sure who. We're just going to move right along and talk about. You got like 7 hours. Grab a seat and watch a made-for-TV movie with that old favorite of ours from the 70s. George C. Scott brings to you Mussolini, the Untold Story.
So this is
yes.
a new release of an old film,
Okay.
an old miniseries. See, TV movie? No, it was too long for that. It's a miniseries.
Okay,
It's
right.
something that would air over the course of multiple nights on
Right.
TV back in
A
'85.
Roots kind of thing.
Yeah, and this was released recently on DVD by VCI, and it looks great. It was one of those things where when I popped in, I wasn't quite sure. I didn't have any memory of when it was on TV and,
Yeah, I don't
and how it
recall it.
originally aired.
And I was a big Scott fan, actually, at the
Oh
time.
yeah, and he
so-
did some really good TV movie work around this
Sure.
time. He did a version of A Christmas Carol for TV that was really good.
that.
He did Jack the Ripper, like a three-part TV movie that was really
that.
good. Or no, maybe that was Michael Caine. I get the two confused.
Okay.
Anyway, Jack the Ripper and Michael Caine, one and the same. You be the judge.
You never see them together.
No, you
strangely
never
enough.
did. See, there you go. This is true. So this film tells the story of Mussolini, not from cradle to the grave, but from basically right around the time he was rising to power until, let's not say the grave, let's say hanging upside down in a public square and being shot, because you do see that. And you have George C. Scott as the focal role. Now, I never know which way to go with movies where Mussolini was Italian. Don't know if you're aware of that, but he was Italian. George C. Scott, not even a hint of an accent.
Right,
And
really.
I always wondered, like when Tom Cruise did
Yes,
Valkyrie.
yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
couldn't you just go, the planes are coming? At least then I'm like, okay, he's not actually speaking German, but
You don't have to
it's-
be Hugh Laurie, but come
that's
on.
a clue to where this is taking place. So it's a really, really strong cast in this. The way I would describe everybody in the cast, with one notable exception, is a young.
Okay.
It's a young Robert Downey Jr. before he was famous, a young Gabriel Byrne before he was famous, a young Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, not a young George C. Scott, and many, many other people who just pop up, a young Virginia Madsen, and just
Really?
I
Wow.
don't know if that they're even in the opening credits of this thing. You just watch it and you're just like, is that? Oh wow, that's somebody we will come to know. And a young Raul Julia has a large role in this
Wow.
film. So the
Okay.
cast is amazing. For me, this went back and forth, written by Sterling Silliphant, who has some credits to his name. It went back and forth from being like good, solid drama and historical information to kind of cheesy sometimes, and sometimes within the performance of one actor, shall we say?
Really?
Shall we say George C. Scott, perhaps? Would occasionally be really good and subtle, and occasionally really silly, and maybe him speaking in whatever accent is his was part of that. I think Lee Meredith, somebody like that. Sorry.
Strasberg
the
and Lee
details.
Meriwether are a little.
A-
I don't
a-
want to see Lee Strasberg
Okay.
as Catwoman, okay?
No, it is
Really.
a strong female actress whose first name is Lee, whose last name I forget right now. Movies at CheshireTV.org.
Was
if
she
you want
back?
to correct me.
Catwoman?
She was not.
Oh, well, then it wasn't
Not-
Meriwether.
especially not in this film.
Okay.
But no, this was good. As I said, it's about 7 hours, so it's broken up into chapters on the DVDs. It's a 2-disc set, so I think the first 3 chapters are on the first disc and the last 4 are on the second. So the way I did it was I just watched one a night before I went to bed every night, and it was fine.
Any extras or anything? You're always big on those. But
Not on this.
Okay.
No extras. I think it's an achievement in and of itself that somebody decided to put this thing out because TV movies are a vastly underrepresented genre on video,
Right.
and TV miniseries the same if not more so. You have the huge ones like Roots, and a couple of others have made it onto video in multiple formats, but very little does. Most of the time it's just a hazy memory or a bootleg you have to go by to see these things again. So I didn't love it, but if you're a fan of World War II, I'm sure it's very interesting because I have a feeling this is probably pretty accurate from what I know. And it did seem to be shot in Europe, so it has a pretty authentic look to it.
Okay.
Very lush, shot in actual locations, actual interiors of old large palaces and
you say this was all
government
restored
buildings.
and everything? So does it look?
Well, I think this was one that was shot on film and finished on video because all of the titles are the original video-generated titles, which in the back
really?
of my mind I always go, ding, cheap.
Right.
But I think they went back to the original masters. It does look very good. And a lot of times I'll see new releases of TV material on video, and I can remember, like, this did not look this good when it aired on TV because film to video transfer wasn't as good back then.
Right.
This is one that looks really good, so it was either a point where film to video transfer was done well, or I don't know if they did work on it, but it does not betray its age, shall we say, visually. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Speaking of just savagery. Oh, were you going to do it?
Mussolini was.
Oh, were you going to
Oh,
introduce that?
I can. If you, I'll
I
do
like
two in
to
a row.
share. It's the
I
Arrow
said,
Video
oh,
Corner,
wait,
by the way.
did I already get shot?
You got shot.
I didn't even. I'm just becoming immune to it because Arrow stuff looks so good that it desensitizes you to bad stuff, I guess. Not that this is bad stuff. because you've probably wondered, ages ago we've been talking a lot about some well-known stars who happen to be incarcerated. You're going to have to find out what it's like to live and try to survive in a pretty tough little jail that they actually call the Animal Factory.
Handling is often violent and frequently causes bruises, broken bones, and other injuries.
Yeah.
Good cast.
We're just sitting here going, oh, that person's in
Really?
that movie?
Wow.
Directed by Steve Buscemi.
Really? Okay.
Written by Edward Bunker, who was in Reservoir Dogs with Steve Buscemi and was a former criminal, con man, not necessarily con man, criminal, robber, incarcerated
He's got
person.
some inside stories to tell.
Who became a writer and wrote a lot of books and things based on that. I think he wrote Short Eyes, if you know that film.
Okay, yep.
And the cast is impressive. Willem Dafoe, Edward Furlong up front and center, a transgender Mickey Rourke, Tom Arnold, Danny Trejo, if I didn't say that already, and others you'd recognize. It's from a movie called Trees Lounge that Steve Buscemi did.
Yeah,
I think it might have been his first directing job. One or two people from that are in bit parts.
Okay.
So basically, Furlong is a guy who gets put in jail for a relatively minor offense, and Dafoe takes him under his wing, and you never quite know if Dafoe has ulterior motives or whatever, and Furlong is just trying to survive and not get too abused while in prison. And for me, the interesting thing about this movie, I didn't know where this was going to go. I remember hearing about this when it came out, and I shied away from it because all the imagery was a shaven head Dafoe and like cinder block walls, and I'm like, I don't want to watch another Holocaust movie right now. I thought it was a Holocaust movie until I got this disc and popped it in, and I'm like, oh, it's a prison movie? Well, great, that'll be
cool,
Sunshine
man.
and Roses. I'll watch that. Everybody in it's quite good. It really puts you inside the walls of a prison, and for me, the most interesting thing was it just sort of showed, at least in the case of this story, how prison works. Like.
Okay.
The social structure of it, some of the procedural stuff, the stuff that goes on that's not supposed to go on but does, and everybody kind of with a wink and a nod lets it happen. It's kind of brutal at times, not as brutal as another film that we both watched recently that Tom just saw, but I thought it was quite good and just well written and directed. It's Arrow, so this isn't one where I say, oh, the transfer looks amazing, because this movie was made in 2001, right. So it's not going to be that big a difference. Transfer looked great. It has an amount of extras, not a huge amount of extras. It has a really interesting thing about Edward Bunker and somebody who knew him talking about their relationship and how he viewed life and how he went from a criminal to an author, a writer, a playwright, what have you. So I thought this was a good release. This isn't, I wouldn't put it in the realm of all-time great prison movies, but it's a good drama with really good cast in it, and I think it's a movie that most people probably don't know. So I say it's worth checking out.
What else would you say, though?
What else would I say is worth checking out?
Advise they check out.
Well, I can inform you of another film that is part of this week's Arrow Video Corner.
How wonderful!
You don't get a second arrow in the haunches for that one, unfortunately. This one's I had never heard of this until it was sent to me recently. It is a Russian drama, fantasy, comedy, satire. I'm not right sure. About a woman who is in her 50s, who leads a very meek life, and begins to come out of her shell when the presence of her tail, not A-L-E, A-I-L, causes big changes in her life, and she decides all is possible in the realms of zoology.
Whatever you do, don't slip the ball when you're walking a tightrope, marching through the night slow, let your light show.
Hi, how are you? So this is an interesting one. I had never heard of this until it was given to me.
I certainly hadn't.
It is a Russian light drama, let's say, from about a year ago. So it's pretty recent, or within the last couple of years. Maybe it was between 2014 and 2016.
Okay.
And it's about this middle-aged Russian woman who's just lives with her mother, is not bullied, but teased by coworkers, very alone, and she happens to have a tail.
No, she teased by coworkers because they know she has a tail, or just because she's...
Nobody knows she has the tail,
okay.
and you don't know this going into the movie. It just kind of comes up. She's uncomfortable in some way, and she goes to a doctor, and she's being x-rayed, and then there's this tail, and you're like, oh, I see. And what's interesting is the doctor is very nonchalant about it.
She knows she has the tail.
She knows she has it. The doctor is just like, oh, can you move that aside? We need to get a better scan. And
really?
But then the people in the village where she lives and her mother keep talking about, oh, there's this woman who lives in the village who has a tail, and she'll eat your children, and she'll make your car go off the road, and all these crazy things. So she hides it from just about everybody. it's an aspect of the story that kind of comes and goes. So like you're watching it and she sort of starts to fall in love with this doctor, or they start dating. So she finds love for the first time at age 50 something, and comes out of her shell more and gets more sort of with her coworkers and all that. And then they go back to the tail, and you're like, oh yeah, she's got a tail. I thought she was just finding herself. So that didn't bug me. It was odd. It was like this little bit of a fantastical element to the film, but then it would get put away. Really, it's about somebody maturing late in life and coming to experience life late in life. It was well done. The performances are all very naturalistic, but not to the point of being boring or feeling like it's a documentary, although it almost has a documentary type feel to it. It's very casual, very low key. It was interesting. There's not much in the way of extras. I think there is or maybe there is. There's a short piece about the director to give you context for like what else he's done. I think there are 2 or 3 pieces about the director and the film itself, and I believe there's a short film that the director also did. I didn't really have time to watch the extras on this one. Again, I can't say that the transfer looks amazing because the nature of this film is very gray and overcast and not very colorful, so it doesn't. And again, it's a movie that's very recent. So this might be one of the first or second film transfer it's had. So it's not going to excel upon any other version you've seen unless you watched a camcorder copy that was shot in a Russian theater or something like that. So I thought this was really interesting. This is a very much indie film sensibility. So this is the kind of film for people who are into, who don't mind subtitles because it's in Russian, who are into films that are out of the ordinary, but ultimately it is kind of a sweet romance and coming of age, very late story. So I thought Zoology was interesting.
There you go.
That's all we have to talk about that is on our sheet here. Did you have any other films? Okay, do you want to save the other film you were telling me you just watched to officially review in the show, or do you just want to mention that you saw it, that brutal film that you saw?
Oh, well, we talked about it earlier. What was it about, Cell Block 9?
It was Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Holy moly, Vince Vaughn, a little different side of our friendly comedian, sort of, perhaps comedian. But we reviewed that, or you reviewed that a couple weeks ago for a theater. So we're probably going to see that coming back up on video. So we'll wait for that.
Okay, that's one I
give them the full treatment.
I might actually buy that one because holy criminy, some of the best fight choreography I've seen in a long time. I spent my Saturday at the Alamo Drafthouse in Yonkers, as I spend at least one day a week. They ran all 4 Lethal Weapon movies in a row. 30 years too old.
A strange one where, as I recall, all 4 of a series of movies pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. The general consensus is that 3 is the weakest link.
Yeah, I would.
3 was the only one they did not have a film print of because the studio didn't have one. They were shocked that anybody was asking for one.
Didn't have
Warner Brothers said, we don't have Lethal Weapon 3. Why do you want it?
Why do you want it?
What was very interesting to me is Lethal Weapon 4, which I saw when it came out, and I saw maybe once on video, and I liked it at the time. That movie is now 19 years old.
Wow.
And the print that they showed looked new. I felt like I was watching that opening weekend. And maybe it's my warped sense of time and everything, but in watching this 19-year-old movie on the big screen, it didn't feel like an old movie at all. Like it didn't feel 19 years old to me. Now, like maybe somebody younger would look at it and go, "Oh, their phones are weird, and the monitors for the computers are big on their desks." But minor things aside, the look of it didn't look dated, or it didn't look from the past. It felt like a movie I was watching brand new, which was a really cool effect. It was interesting to see all 4 of those close together, which I never have, and to see the threads that work their way through all the movies.
Right.
And it is a pretty consistent.
Yeah.
3 I think is the weakest, but beyond that, it's a very consistent series. They're very funny. The action is really well done.
All 3 of them?
Richard Donner did all of them.
All 4? Yeah.
Shane Black wrote at least the majority of them, let's say. And you had that same cast go all the way through, and you see the kids literally grow up. The Danny Glover's daughter, youngest daughter in the film, goes from a little girl to a college student over the course of these 4 movies. So it was a great time, great audience. Everybody was really into it and respectful, like they weren't talking and yelling things out. But when funny things happened, huge applause, like they were seeing it for the first time. When the bad guy would bite it in the end, huge applause and cheers. It was a wonderful time, and I don't know. I would say Lethal Weapon 1 through 4, not a bad way to spend a full day, 8 hours, unless you really hate Mel Gibson, and I can understand that if you do. So
it's
next
a
week,
lot of time. You might be getting too old for that.
Too old for that stuff?
Yeah, stuff.
Every time they said that line in the movie, the audience cheers. It was so much fun. Oh boy, you don't get movie experiences like that too often anymore.
Right.
So next week, potentially, we have the new Guillermo del Toro, kind of like a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie,
Right.
Shape of Water, which looks really good. We have Just Getting Started.
Right.
Never heard of it?
Nope.
And there's the new Tanya Harding comedy biopic, fictionalized I, Tanya, which I've seen the trailer for, and it looks like a lot of fun.
Okay, good.
I just read today that Keene Cinemas, locally where we are, will be getting 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is a film I reviewed a week or so ago. So don't travel if you live in Keene. It will be coming to town. And some movie about
a week
space
or so from
battles.
now, you can just kind of forget about anything else.
It's going to happen.
Just get in line now.
I am still sick and have nothing clever to say at this point.
I'm sorry to hear that. So maybe we should get out of here so I can go away and not get sick.
Go and edit a certain trailer.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are
the Cinemaniacs.